I'm not exaggerating when I say that this show is one of the best, if not the best, superhero cartoons ever produced. The Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, was a cartoon series that ran for 2 seasons on Disney XD. This show is merely a cartoon adaptation of Avengers comic book adventures. It features all the main members from the movie, such as Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow makes a few appearances, and Hawkeye. This show also features Hank Pym, aka Ant-Man, aka Giant Man, aka later on, Yellow Jacket. You'll be seeing him, played by Michael Douglas, in the upcoming Ant-Man movie next summer. Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, is in this show. Later on in the show, you'll see Carol Danvers, aka Ms. Marvel. You'll be seeing her 4 years from now on the big screen, except she'll just be called Captain Marvel, since by that time, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there won't be a Captain Marvel to precede her, unlike in the TV show. The Vision's in this show. We're probably going to see him in Avengers Age of Ultron next summer as well. And Black Panther's in this show. We're going to see him on the big screen in 3 years from now. This show is pretty well done. What made this show so good was it had great character development. You really felt connected to all these characters. All the characters were likable. You really felt connected to these people. Another thing that the show did really well is story arcing. Unlike other superhero shows that tend to have very story-centric episodes, the story begins and ends in the episode, and then back to square one the next episode. This show has stories that are mostly contained in one episode, usually, but often there are loose ends left over that will carry over into a later episode, sometimes in the next episode. And it wouldn't even be presented in a 2-part format. This kind of writing makes this show really good for streaming, which is how I watched this series. I found this series on Netflix. I discovered it after watching a couple of reviews about this show from Sam's channel, which is a movie review channel that you definitely should check out. Being that the show is serialized in a sense, and it's very good for streaming, that means there was a lot of big events that went on. And these events wouldn't just happen all of a sudden, they'd be built up over time within the course of a few episodes or the course of the entire season. I have a couple of gripes about this show. I actually have 4 specifically. The first one is how the show mentions the existence of other superheroes. Don't get me wrong, I like seeing other Marvel heroes appear in this show. Makes it feel like, wow, this just jumped out of the comics. However, it gets a little strange when you think about it. When big events are happening that threaten the entire world, and only the Avengers are around to stop it. And this is like a big public event. It's not happening in distant space somewhere. It's happening, like, on Earth, and TV cameras are watching, people are fleeing. If one of those kind of big events, and I'm always scratching my head thinking, why aren't the Fantastic Four jumping into this? Even though they exist with them, why aren't the X-Men with them? The X-Men exist in this universe as well. Where's Spider-Man? Why is it just the Avengers doing this? Is there some sort of superhero agreement where everyone just kind of sits back and says, oh yeah, these guys got it handled? So it has that problem, but you can ignore that. Another problem I had was with Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. Now, don't get me wrong, I like these 2 characters. I think they were really well developed. But something about these characters is that you knew that the writers were setting them up to, you know, hook up, except maybe in a cartoon series, maybe it'd just be a kiss, you know? In the comics, they were married. They get divorced, but I don't think the show wanted to tackle that. I don't think I got the chance to. We'll get to that later. But the characters were close, and they were adorable, and I was just waiting for an episode to acknowledge any romantic connection. It just seemed a little inevitable. I don't know if they were going to do that in the potential 3rd season and 4th season, and just didn't get around to it. Another gripe I had with this show was the character of the Hulk. Now, the Hulk is a very useful character in this show. It was just the way he was written. He didn't feel so much as a potentially out-of-control angry monster with the exception of a few episodes, but usually it's caused by some outside force, not of his own accord, usually. And you see, in the beginning of the show, when Hulk joins the Avengers, it's because Banner made a deal with the Hulk. It's one of those split personality things, where Bruce Banner said, I'll give up my identity as Banner if you use what you are to save the world, to use your abilities, your bruteness, your angerness, your power for good. So as a result, Hulk usually just stayed in Hulk form a lot. He felt less like the Hulk and more just like a angrier, greener version of Ben Grimm from the Fantastic Four. But those three things didn't bother me as much as this last thing I'm going to talk about, which is that the show was canceled after 2 seasons. See, after the Avengers movie came out, Marvel and Disney decided to use their kids programming lineup on Disney XD, create a block of Marvel superhero cartoon programming, hence starting out with Ultimate Spider-Man, which wasn't really about Spider-Man from what I hear. It more just exists to promote the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Probably what they were thinking is that Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes had too well established of a continuity that it would clash for some viewers with the continuity already established in the movies, so they wanted to make from what I hear, a dumbed-down version of the show. And the show that is currently airing on Disney XD is called Marvel's Avengers Assemble. Now, I've seen screenshots from the show, and it looks good. The animation is more realistic looking than the more stylized animation in Avengers EMH. But from what I hear, it seems to have traded good animation for really good writing. Like, they wanted to make this show only for kids. It'd be more just a time waster for kids, rather than something the adults could enjoy as well, the comic book adults. Essentially, Avengers Assemble exists a lot more just to promote the movies, rather than be its own entertaining source of storytelling. So let's get this straight. If you finished watching Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and if you're planning on watching Avengers Assemble, just note, it's not a continuation. It's a different show, different, separate continuity all to its own. I haven't seen Avengers Assemble, so I'm only saying that it's supposedly dumbed down and stupider because they have a low opinion of kids. I'm only saying this based on from what I've heard. Again, I've also heard this on Sam's channel. Check this out. As well as other reviews on Metacritic and stuff. It's still a shame that they made that decision because Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was such an entertaining show and is so much potential. A lot happened in its first 2 seasons, and I don't think it was ready to stop. In fact, once you get to the last episode, it definitely feels like a very forced finale. Like, the writers got the notice, oh, they're canceling the show. Well, we gotta write an ending, right? Or something that kind of feels like an ending. So they did that, and as a result, 22 minutes has supposedly so much epicness, but it feels all crammed in there. It felt like it needed to be stretched out another episode, but they had to stop at the 26 episode season mark, so on the bright side, unlike other great canceled programs like Firefly, this show takes 26 hours to watch. Well, maybe a little less since it doesn't have commercials, but it's 52 episodes, so it may take a little while if you plan on streaming this show sometime, and you might not be able to do it in a weekend. You might be able to do it in maybe 3 or 4 days. But I strongly encourage that you should do it, especially if you like superheroes, especially if you like Marvel superheroes. 52 episodes of storytelling for a cartoon series, it's not that bad. There's a lot you can cover, and there's a lot that is covered in this show. Definitely check this one out. This is a really good show, kind of an underrated show. Usually people say Justice League was like the pinnacle of superhero success, or Batman the Animated Series. This series is kind of underrated in that bunch, and it doesn't deserve to be. It's an excellent, excellent program. I definitely recommend checking this show out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.